Pouya Khazaeli Parsa, Persian Modernism and the Social Function of Architecture. Dozens of pages have been dedicated by Domus magazine to Iran's modern and contemporary production in architecture and design. Home of an indigenous, many-centured architectural movement, Iran has always been at the forefront of creativity, shaping new concepts and new styles out of a solid and rich tradition. So much history to make it impossible to put a tag on its intriguing architecture. Among the new generation of professionals whose works have impressed the global architectural community through their trademark blend of innovative, international style elements with traditional Persian features is Pouya Khazaeli Parsa, the Iranian architect on whose works Domus, as of late, has focused its attention the most. An internationally renowned representative of the Iranian contemporary architectural scene and himself a gifted artist, Khazaeili Parsa has authored many striking works. The first one to appear in Domus magazine in September 2007 was a Le Corbusier-inspired villa in Mazandaran on the Caspian Sea. A housing structure with slender means and honest design intentions. This is how Stefano Casciani, in his inspired article, describes the villa. He goes on to note how its design combines a Western modernist vocation focused on a difficult spatial variation of Le Corbusier's poem of the right angle with traditional Persian elements. These ones include the central role of the empty space in the very center of the building, which gives shape to the entire structure and creates a small patio, whose tiny pool and minimalist vegetation fit the purpose of connecting the dwellers to nature in an intimate environment. A defining feature of the building is the aerial ramp, which cuts into the closed mass of the walled box and creates a first-floor terrace opening on the outside space and ending as the building roof garden. Through this clever design, Khazaeili Parsa resolves the functional need to allow those living in the house to enjoy the mystery of the Caspian Sea, which was blocked from their view by the extreme overdevelopment of Daryacha tourist resort. Four years later, in January 2011, a single-family weekend home in the Dervishabad village was featured by Domus in its online edition. The author of the article, Iranian architect Kamran Afshar Naderi, calls it an object house, which respects the rules of international minimalist architecture, but also establishes a subtle connection with the local architectural past and the traditional Iranian house. Among other things, this is evidenced by the fact that the building is raised above ground on 4 columns to prevent absorption of moisture from the soil. The living environment is organized around an empty space, represented by a glass funnel which captures sunlight and brings it to the center of the house. In his design, Khazaeili Parsa drew inspiration from Iran's traditional architecture, where most spaces are organized around a void called hayat. Internally, the house is divided mainly by modular partitions, ensuring the space flexibility typical of traditional houses, where family life centers around different places, depending on the season or even the time of the day. The rooftop is interpreted as an extension of domestic space, another reference to Persian homes. The courtyard is not open to the surrounding context in order to protect the family's privacy, while the terrace space simulates the intimacy of the central courtyards of traditional houses.
Actually, I was influenced by Western modern architecture. I mean, at the beginning of the 20th century, and at the same time, I was inspired by the special quality of Iranian architecture. So this was the first the first period of my architectural life. I was more focused over the spatial quality, not the construction methods or techniques. But in the second part of my architectural life, I changed my focus. I changed also my clients, because I started after that to work for refugees, for poor people, work with natural materials, and I think that's what we need today.
After his studies at the Milan Politecnico in Italy, Khazaeli Parsa started his collaboration with Japanese architect Shigeru Ban and American NGO Architecture for Humanity, active in improving refugees' living conditions. A new parallel phase of Khazaeli Parsa's career started, which attracted Domus' attention twice. The first time with a bamboo hut built with a budget of less than 1,000 euros and described in the article Bamboo Structure, published in August 2009, and the second time in January 2013, when Domus Eyes turned to the construction prototype for Afghan refugees in Kerman. The bamboo structure represents a novel mode of construction, extremely cheap, simple, and sustainable. The decision to choose bamboo was determined by the context, the forests of Catalan in northern Iran. The base for the construction was provided by gas pipes, bought from the local market, carrying out a critical structural function, while at the same time allowing for easy move of the hut by simply taking the bamboos out of the pipes and installing them in a different location. The bamboo hut caught Domus' attention as a cost-effective shelter and a form of emergency housing which can be easily built in just a couple of days. At the same time, the use of bunches of cropped rice stems covering the structure was a clever way to ensure ventilation of the hut in a warm day and provide effective shelter in a rainy day due to the expansion of the rice stems when wet.
About the project for Afghan refugees. The significant thing about this project, I think, is that it shows that the architecture is beyond being beautiful, making beautiful structures. It's really beyond that, even beyond defining beautiful spaces, or like the first part of my period of architecture life, working over dialogue or special dialogue in different fields. By the way, why is beyond that? Because you can cover something else, like you can treat people's life. If you can make their life easier or even harder, you can deal with a part of society that, as you tell, they are really forgotten, and all these things, it's not they are not about making beautiful structures. And I think at that time also Domus and Domus Web, they really realized the importance of this part of it.
In his quest for bettering refugees' living conditions, Khazaeli Parsa worked on an additional remarkable project, this time for Syrian refugees in Jordan. The project was realized in 2015 in collaboration with the Italian scaffolding company, Pilosio.
Pilosio, they defined the budget for the project, the research budget. So I stayed in Udine, but the factory is in Tavagnato, yes, if I'm right. So I started for 2 years doing the research. So the company funded the research totally. And at that time, we started to travel to region, to Turkey, Jordan, and finally we realized schools by using those scaffolding and mixing them with natural material, with the material that they have on the ground. And we realized that it's the refugees themselves. So the name of the project was Rebuild, because those scaffoldings was really easy to assemble and disassemble. It's not like what we have in Iran, because it's really hard to disassemble and assemble again. So the refugees, they could do that after. So we were thinking that after the war and after that refugees wanted to change their place or come back to their country, they can actually use the same scaffoldings, just transport it to other location and assemble it again. As an architect, what I can do for people and for myself is just to make people, let's say, more independent, to work on the techniques that they can improve themselves. Many of these peoples that we think they are poor people, they have rich background. In Afghanistan, they have rich culture of construction during centuries. But we can work on that, make it better, just by our knowledge today, and work with those people and empower them. I think that can bring happiness to society. And in this point of view, architecture for me can do some can have an important role rather than just making beautiful structures or spaces.